Hey everybody, it's Under My Cap and welcome back to another video where today I'm going to be showing you how to use the Maker Pen in RecRooms. Now, I know what you're thinking, you usually make Minecraft content, and yes, but I thought that this game is a really cool game as it kind of has the same creative elements. As you can see here, this is the menu you get when you open up your Maker Pen. You can see the create buttons, we have our undo and editing buttons at the top, the snapping, and a whole bunch of settings over here. So what you want to first do in this tutorial is we want to simply click on the create button. When you click on the create button, you can see that we get a whole bunch of useful create tools, which pop up here. We'll go through those in a second. You can also see that we have the snappings, world space, and show circuits. We're not going to do circuits today. We can do that another day once I learn them. But once you do that, this all pops up. So the create tool is the only tool in the Maker Pen that allows you to create shapes. You can see I've just created a square over here. We can also generate a whole bunch of other shapes by simply clicking the palette button. So let's go and do that right now. You can see we have a variety of shapes. We have the cubes, which are one of the more used shapes. Then you have all of these other shapes, which apparently not a lot of people use. I still use them. And then we have tubes at the very bottom if you scroll down, which is one of the most important shapes in the entire game. So that's a separate video as well. But for now, let's just select cube because that is a cool shape. And yeah, we can draw it in. Now you notice that when I actually draw my square, your square may not look like this, and this is because I have uniform shapes on. Now uniform shapes just means that it makes sure that the X coordinates, the Y coordinates, and the Z coordinates of the shape you spawn in are identical. If we have it disabled, by simply going to Tools and turning off uniform shapes in the Create menu, you'll see that when I draw the square, it isn't uniform. So this is one of the really cool tools that you can use in the Maker Pen, which allows you to make sure that your shapes are identical when you're creating them. Now this is one of the really useful tools that you can use if you just want to make sure that your shape is uniform when you're creating it, just to make sure that all the dimensions are the same. Now let's go over snapping. So snapping basically allows you to make sure that your shape stays even in your world, or make sure that everything stays neat. You can see that with snapping off, the squares don't really have any structure when I spawn them in. You can see they just rotate around. There's no structure, like I can't place them on top of them evenly. There's no alignment. Basically, sorry, snapping is basically alignment. So if we want to make sure that all of the stuff we build in the game is aligned, we can use snapping. I'm just going to undo all of those drawings. So we have surface snapping and we have grid snapping. So let's go into grid snapping first, because surface is a little bit more different. So we're going to just grab our finger, we're going to slide that across. If you're on a computer, use your mouse, obviously. Now you notice that when we turn on grid, the shape actually goes into its own little grid area. You don't see any grids around it, but you can see that the shape automatically snaps. Same with rotation as well. You can see the square will rotate as well. And this is really useful, again, for alignment. You can see when we draw with the square, instead of it going everywhere and rotating, it stays perfectly aligned, which we want when we're building stuff that requires very neat lines. So to manipulate this, if we want to make it snap to larger areas or make sure that the rotation is a little bit more open, we can go into the Create tool again. We can scroll all the way down to the very bottom where it says Snapping Grid Settings. We can then open that up and we have a whole bunch more options which we can use. So have to make sure that it is on grid at the top, but you can see we have position snap and rotation snap. So position snap basically is where in the world will the object that you're spawning in snap to, and the distance it will snap to. So you can see we are on 0.5. So if I move the square, it's snapping every 0.5 meters, 0.05, sorry. But as you can see, if we move up to 1, the square gets massive and it snaps every single meter. So if you're doing really large builds, I don't know if you can see that square behind me. If you're doing really large builds, you'd change the snapping up. If you're doing very sensitive builds, you would snap it all the way down to 0.005, where you can see that the square is just very faintly snapping. And then again, if you don't want any snapping, you can just turn that off. And rotation snap is very similar to the position snap. So you can see if we spawn in a square like this, and then we go into the rotate tool, which I'll cover in a different lesson, you can see that we can rotate it every 30 degrees rather than every 90 degrees if we set that back. So we go back to the rotation snap, we set that to 90 degrees, you'll see that the cube, or the rectangular squarey thing, will rotate every 90 degrees. But let's get back into the create tool. So it's really easy to get mixed up with all of these tools. So now that we've covered the basics of actually how to create an item in the game, we want to maybe make it look a little bit nicer. We don't want to keep it orange, we want to actually make it textured. So we're going to go back into the tools menu, or sorry, the palette menu. You want to click on swatches at the very top, and swatches just is basically the color and the texture that you set objects in the game. So you can see that we have a stone swatch on the floor, we also have a brick swatch for the building over here, and it's really simple to use. So let's get straight into it. So when you open up the menu, you can have pre-configured swatches, which I have over here, but if you're brand new to the game, you just have one, so we'll just click on that one. And once we click on that one, you'll see that we have a color and a texture. We also do have a size as well, and a save as new swatch. So let's go over the color. So colors are in hexadecimal. So if you are good with hex codes, it's really simple to copy the color that you want into the game. Other than that, you can just simply select it by clicking on it, and you have a variety of pre-made colors. And if they don't suit what you're wanting to build, you can click custom, and custom allows you to just use your finger to select the color you want, and you can also change the brightness of it as well. So we'll just set it to maybe a darker blue. You can see that now we have set it to a nice kind of cyan color, the same as my outfit. We'll hit done, and once we do this, we can now move on to the next part, which is the texture. So the texture part is really cool. It gives you a whole bunch of textures that you can use in game. So we have cardboard, we have wood grain, painted wall, painted brick. As I said before, the brick is displayed behind me on this wall. For now, we're just going to, let's say, click metal floor, because that one is reflective and it also kind of looks really cool. Now, when you come down to size, so size isn't actually how big your shape will be, it is how zoomed in on the texture do you want. So lots of people I've talked to use this to make projects look more realistic, have more realism. So the higher you go, the more zoomed in the texture will look, whereas the lower you go, the more like you can see right here in the camera. So this is low, so it's more detailed. But then if we go all the way up to 5,000, you literally can't even see the textures anymore. So that's basically the sizing. Then we also have save as new swatch and save swatch. So if you want to save this swatch for another use, or if you want to use it in another project, you can just simply click save as new swatch, and it'll add it to your swatches menu. If you don't want to do that and you just want to overwrite the current swatch, so basically just replace the swatch you have selected with your new color and new texture, you can hit save swatch. Restore swatch will restore the swatch, and you can also delete swatches if you filled up your menu, you don't need them anymore, you can just delete them. Now, that was a very full-on video with the create tool. I will go into more depth in tubes and all of that sort of stuff, but if you did find this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Part 2 will be out very soon, and it will be right above my head or right in front of me. But yeah, I'd really appreciate it. Also subscribe to me in game, it's really cool. I can show you more building stuff if you want. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video and the next part of this series.